I brought the same rain jacket both seasons, and it is an amazing rain jacket. The brand is Haglofs. I looked, I don't believe they make this model anymore. It's called 1914 with 19 in numbers and 14 in letters. What I loved about this is that it's so oversized and bulky that I could fit a lot of clothing beneath it. And then it also has lots of great pockets, one big chest pocket on each side, two hip pockets, big pockets with buttons, and then one small pocket for precious things on the inside of the jacket. So I would keep things like extra camera batteries and my headlamp batteries in there where I knew I could get them. And then it also has this amazing hood, which they call a snorkel hood, specifically made for really intense driving winds, which we absolutely had on both season 6 and the Frozen season. And this did really well for me. But like happens to so many rain jackets, it definitely got to the point where the totally waterproof outer coating on it was worn away, and then the fabric itself was saturated. So it didn't soak through and get me wet inside, but it was wet and cold and heavy from being wet on the outside. So had they still had this model, I would have bought a new jacket to go on Alone Frozen. I didn't. The other thing is that I forgot that the zipper broke on me on Alone season 6. So the zipper wasn't in great working order the whole time I was on Alone Frozen. It would unzip just about to my navel, and then I would have to manually pry it open, and then I could unzip it the rest of the way. It worked for me, but I was really afraid that it was going to break and that I wouldn't be able to zip it back up, and that would have been pretty tragic for me. It also took a beating, so it definitely has a fair number of holes and plenty of spots where it is no longer waterproof, because what I put this thing through and the conditions out there were just so intense, more than any rain jacket was designed for. Still, the Haglofs company out of Sweden, big fan of their products. I wish they still made this model. I would probably get a couple, even though they're expensive. If I could, I would get enough to last me for the rest of my life. But check them out. Maybe something like this model will come back in future years, and whatever models they have, I also think are going to be top notch. Swedish companies tend to make amazing gear. Speaking of the high quality of Swedish gear, I cannot sing the praises of these wool pants that I brought out on Alone Frozen highly enough. These suckers were amazing. They were my warmth, they were my shelter, they were my body armor. They were so awesome. Really, really well made. And I have something to compare them to, because on Alone season 6, I wore just an oversized pair of army surplus pants. I believe they're German army pants. And they were great, but they are like a flimsy piece of paper next to these. The cloth, way thinner. They definitely got worn through in some places from the hardware on season 6, even though I wore my buckskin pants way more than I wore these. I have places where they came apart completely. They were bulky and uncomfortable, especially as I lost a lot of weight, so I had to really cinch them up with my belt buckle, and then they were cumbersome and hard to move around in. These were way warmer, reinforced knee pads, way more and more usable pockets, adjustable, which is amazing on Alone because our weight tends to shift really dramatically, and so warm and comfortable. Really top notch. So these are from the Miklagard company. It's again Swedish, so it's got a couple more A's than you might expect. You can see the full details in the description of this video, but check it out. They are lined on the inside, which makes them extra warm and so awesome. And then all of the detailing, all of the edges of the pockets and the trim is reindeer leather, which is really thin, but really strong, really beautiful. And you're taking the energy of the North Woods out with you into northern environments. So both function and the feel and the energy of these pants was like, these are made to be doing what I'm doing. super, super awesome. Absolutely a key part of my wardrobe. One of my biggest pieces of shelter out there, my Miklegard pants. I had these custom made for me because I'm small enough that a lot of their sizes don't fit me. So you would need to look into the company and see what they offer. They are spendy for sure, but treated right, these should be the only pair of wool pants you need to buy in your life. Look at the reinforcements down here on the lower part of the leg so that the swishing back and forth doesn't wear through the leather. The reinforced knee pads, which are cut so that they allow for free range of movement rather than being really bulky. The doubled rear so they don't wear through. Just so awesome. Can't say enough good things about these. Unfortunately, I had them made for a size a little bit bigger than my standard size because, of course, I was putting on weight to go out in Alone Frozen, and I made the measurements kind of in between the high weight I was achieving specifically for Frozen and my normal weight. So now they're a little bit bigger for me than I want them to be, but still awesome to wear. And I just wear them with a belt now. No complaints about these awesome pants. Miklegard was really proud to have me wear their pants out on Alone Frozen and to become the first woman to win Alone in their pants. So they have given me the opportunity to give you a discount. The code WONIYA, my name, will give you a 10% discount at Miklegard to order your own pants. Very important part of my Alone Frozen wardrobe was this fur parka that I made. This was a redesign of the fur parka that I made for Alone Season 6, which was crappily put together because I was so ambitious. I was making so many things for it. Again, you can read all about that decision process and my process of making it in Never Alone. But my first version of the parka was really warm, but not as attractive, not as user-friendly, not as fitted and lightweight as it could have been. So this was my redesign of it. I give a lot more details in the YouTube video that you can find that is just about my parka for Alone Frozen. So I'm not going to go into many details right now. I'm just going to tell you that for the most part, I did not get to wear this parka anywhere near as much as I had hoped to because we kept getting these terrible freeze-thaw cycles. So a lot of times the weather was just a little wetter than is good for the buckskin. However, it was amazing to have out there because this sucker is thicker and more comfortable than an air mattress. So this was not just a warm garment, but it was my sleeping pad. So I slept super comfortable and so warm and cozy. Are you kidding me? Look at this thing. Reindeer fur, insanely soft and cozy and warm and comfortable sleeping mat. So in my warm little nest, I was sleeping like a baby. So it was worth it, even though I didn't wear it as much as I had hoped to. Which brings us to right here, the top of my body and the two hats I brought for Alone Frozen. Yes, of course, my boots were very important, but that is a big enough subject. I'm doing a separate video about that. My two hats. So just as with the pants, my plan was to have one hat for when it was warmer weather and I was going to be needing some amount of sun protection in addition to the warmth of the hat, and then one straight up, full on, cold, warmest hat possible for later in the season. The hat that I chose to bring for early on is this one right here. And this is a commercial hat from the company Stormy Kromer, who I'm a big fan of. They make all kinds of awesome winter hats. Most of them are sportier hats, not the super warm ones like this, but great hats and wool on the outside, but inside I was not as happy with the lining. I wanted it to be a little bit warmer than it came from the factory. So what you see here, the top of the hat, is their camo wool as it came from Stormy Kromer, but then I added my own warmer lining and I added this ear flap and chin strap to it. So I dyed wool dark brown on the outside, and then I used a green fleece for the inside so that either way, inside or out, it was camouflage to go with that environment. And oh my goodness, super warm and cozy. I wore the heck out of this hat. Cinched it down tight because those winds were so insanely brutal, but it served me incredibly well. Absolutely loved it and loved my modifications to it. Really glad I did that because I think it would have been too lightweight and not warm enough for the conditions otherwise. But as soon as it started getting truly brutally cold, down around 0 and below, this sucker was amazing. Now, just like my gear for Alone Season 6, some of my gear for Alone Frozen, I didn't have enough time to make it as beautiful as I wanted it to be. So let's be honest, this hat is a little taller than is most aesthetically pleasing. I look a little bit like Elmer Fudd in the sucker, not gonna lie or pull the wool over your eyes, so to say. But dang, it was incredibly warm. It was so good. It was like walking around in a sleeping bag for my head. And this is a hat that I made every part of. So it is felted wool for the outside, which again is going to shed water. So waterproof, windproof, very, very warm. Then the entire thing is lined with rabbit fur. All of these are rabbits that I raised, butchered for their meat, and tanned the hides of. So a lot of sentimental value as well as amazing function with this hat. I was still working on this till the last minute, so I didn't have an opportunity to get the pattern just right, which is why it is a little bit more domed than I wanted it to be. So slightly funny looking, insanely functional. And then of course a chin strap, really important with those driving winds, and also important for keeping it on my head while sleeping, because I wore this sucker night and day, all day long in my sleeping bag. It was my security blanket in both the emotional and the physical sense. Right before going out, when I knew I didn't have enough time to change the pattern and get it a little bit less domed, what I did is I wove my intentions into it through needle felting designs into it with lighter colored wool. I'm a botanist and my plant allies are really important to me. So I started off with a leaf. At first I thought I was going to have just that, but then I just kind of kept going. So I made a nice little line to distinguish each side. I put in a crescent moon. To me, this was representative of the feminine energy and the support of the world around me. And then we were going to be right on the ocean. So for whatever reason, the small drop of water surrounded by this larger cup shape, that was what represented the ocean to me. So this was a prayer for the bounty of the oceans, like a big cup or an offered hand. On the back is this kind of serpentine shape. That to me represented the river that we were camping by before we launched. So the resources of both the freshwater and the ocean were going out there with me. Finally, I wanted to bring with me the energy of some animals that are really important to me. I started with snowshoe hare tracks running across the top of the hat, and then followed with fox tracks going the opposite direction, sniffing around after that snowshoe hare. So snowshoe hares and foxes, two really strong animal allies for me, two animals I connected really deeply with when I was out on Alone Season 6. So I put prayers for those creatures into my hat, and sure enough, both of them showed up big time on my Alone Frozen journey and were a really important part of it. So thank you to the foxes and the snowshoe hares of Labrador. There you have it, folks. The outerwear clothing that was a huge part of my shelter in Labrador and helped me find so much success staying there, setting a record for the most cumulative days anyone has ever had on Alone between my Alone Season 6 and my Alone Frozen days added together. Please remember to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notifications bell if you'd like to hear when my videos come out. Also, if you like what I do and would like to be a bigger part of it, consider joining my Patreon membership team, where you get to support my videos. It's what's keeping this YouTube channel alive. You also get updates about all that I'm up to more and before I put it on social media or YouTube, and you get to have more interaction with me. We have regular Zoom calls and all kinds of other awesome benefits. Thanks for joining me, and keep watching for more about how to incorporate a little bit more wildness into your life, about natural history and the greater world around us, and so much more.